Brothers, sisters, and comrades, this is the Alfie Brown Show, a podcast in which I, by myself, the stand-up comedian Alfie Brown, speaks for an elongated period of time about the things that I want to speak about, which this week is Joe Rogan and how to start a cult, the transfer deadline day, and that's more a bit about kind of capitalism invading sport, I suppose, although that makes it sound slightly more adolescent than it is. And then maybe a little bit about Boris Johnson and a little bit about Frank Lampard and a little bit about maybe some other people. I don't know. I've just done my shows at the Soho Theatre, so I probably will mention that. And I'm going on tour. AlfieBrownComedian.com is where you can get all these tickets if you would like to come and see me on tour. I'm going to a lot of places, not Cornwall, because I'm not. So if you want to come and see me on tour, then please go there. Also, if you like the podcast, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, subscribe, leave a nice review on iTunes or Spotify, and share it on your social media. That really helps me out. And consider it, if you like the podcast enough to pay for it, consider doing that payment. Have a great week, everybody, and a lovely February, which we're about to all embark on together. This is the Alfie Brown Show. Okay, let's go. Let's do this podcast. I am poorly. I'm ever so slightly poorly, and you can tell because I'm wearing my "I'm slightly poorly" hat. If you're a viewer of the podcast, if you're a listener to the podcast, well, let me tell you, I'm wearing a sort of red and black checked woolen cap, peaked cap, with flaps for your ears. And it's not an attractive hat, but it is a comforting hat. And the comfort comes in the texture and the warmth and, crucially, I think, in the ear flaps. I'm a big fan of flaps. They keep my ears warm, and also it's not COVID. I don't have COVID. I've tested several times. I've been doing shows all week at the Soho Theatre, and let me tell you a thing or two, they went well, except for possibly Saturday night and maybe Thursday. So, but that still means that Wednesday and Friday were good. So, a mixed bag. And also, pardon me, it's still a good show, even if the audience weren't at their best. I'd back myself to be worth watching, I think, under those circumstances. And either way, the adrenaline surge you get every night, and the plummeting adrenaline that you get after having been on stage, the absence of like fear and terror and fight or flight, and then your flight and fight are both finished and gone, and you have to move on with your life and think, fuck, what happens now? I was just 147 people, or however the big capacity of that room is. It was sold out. Now what am I? Now what am I? I remember my friend and colleague and excellent comedian, Louisa, used to say to me, it always really used to make me, Louisa Omielan, who is also part of the new series of Soho Presents on whatever streaming platform it ends up on. Possibly the same one as the last couple of series. Who knows? Who knows at this stage? There's been no formal announcement, so I don't know. Anyway, after she had got off stage and would get her quotidian standing ovation, she would get the bus home to where she lived, and it almost didn't seem right to her that people on the bus didn't know. Excuse me, I just got a standing ovation. So I'm, I maybe you could clap. And it's a hard thing for the ego to comprehend that that you're not on stage anymore. So I can find myself in my conversations after I leave stage. I just hear myself coming across like a bit of a dildo. And if I spoke to you after the shows and I did come across like a bit of a dildo, I apologize for that. I was in a frenzied state of ego and mania. And I just don't think I can be held accountable for the way I behaved. But no, I take that back. I can be held accountable for the way I behaved. I think I think circumstances made me be a bellend is a dangerous moral backing to give yourself for when you think that you've been a bit of a dick. So I won't say, I won't give myself the excuse of situation, because everybody who does anything bad is always in a situation or another. So I can't blame the way I was on that. All I can do is say, if I was a dildo to speak to after my shows, I will try in the future to more to behave in a way that is more pleasant for you to be around as a human person that enjoys my comedy. And I appreciate you coming. I appreciate everybody coming so much. It really is wonderful and heartening, and it was such an exquisite and a nerve-wracking experience to be in a situation where you've written a show that you're premiering at the Soho Theatre, and then it does well enough to come back and get filmed. And I've done very well. Obviously, the temptation can be sometimes to. I've done pretty well there, and we must enjoy when we've done well, and also think, you know what, fuck me. I think it might have been all that effort I put in. One great method of self-preservation is that I've mastered over the years is I didn't try, and by not trying, I could never truly fail in the most brutal way. I couldn't fully inhabit failure as I hadn't fully inhabited effort. So there was always something I could have done that could have made it better. Whereas, I don't think, you can never go, I put in maximum effort there, so good for me. But my work ethic, my ethic generally improved many times over. And I was a lot happier for it. But, maybe I do have COVID. Maybe it's just loads of lateral flows aren't going. I'm really, this is becoming quite a braggadly podcast now, but I'm really, really good at doing lateral flows. I get bits of my brain out my head when I do a lateral flow test. I root around in the David Attenborough can't access the bits of my nasal cavity that I can. I mean, with one of his deep sea, I was comparing my nose to the deep ocean, the darkness where you get the fluorescent fish. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then sorry, but I'm brilliant. I get right to the back of my throat, and I think I've got quite a good gag reflex as well. Well, what a way to find out that about yourself. But I do. I have a brilliant gag reflex in that it's brilliant in that it's absent for the situation in which you might commonly think somebody might gag, I don't gag very much, which I think you can be very pleased about if you're a friend or a fan of mine, to know that I have that special skill in my arsenal. If you thought you knew all of the ways in which I might be somebody that you would like to know, if you're a friend of mine, or perhaps you like my work, then know this: I'm brilliant at lateral flow tests, and I have no gag reflex. I am wasted on women. So it's all great news. It's all great news. And now I'm just an aspirational podcaster who wants to try their best and to make their way in the world of podcasting. I've designed an intro. If you heard the intro, then you'll have enjoyed the intro. If I've got it to work, which I might have done, there's every chance that I haven't. Next, I'm going to try and amend the space in my brand new central London recording space, which, if you're watching the podcast, you can see is a shit tip. And if you are listening to the podcast, let me tell you that this room is a shit tip. And it might slightly be affecting my brain and the way in which I move forward in this podcast, and the way in which I meander from subject to subject. The chaos of the room, perhaps through me being immersed in it, exacerbates the chaos of my own brain. Could that be the case? How much do our surroundings determine our characteristics as human beings? If you make sure that you are in an ordered space, would you necessarily become more orderly? What about colours? If it was a red room, would I be angrier? A blue room, calmer? A green room, more willing to bitch about comedians? You know? Would that be the case? It's an interesting thing. I don't know the answer either. And that is one thing that I as a podcaster, am keen to inhabit, is the not knowing of things. To know what I don't know. And given the Joe Rogan debacle, and it is a debacle, given the Joe Rogan debacle, I think that one of the best traits that we can hope to have as podcasters is to know what we don't know. Now, Joe Rogan gave a very good apology the other day, in which he said, "Oh man, I love Joni Mitchell, whatever song he liked, it's a great song. I love that song. It's a great song. Anyway, maybe I haven't." He didn't apologize, but he did say, "Oh, maybe I need to do this in the future, and I don't know everything." And he was saying, like, basically, I got it wrong, because I always get things wrong. I'm a guy who gets things wrong. Like, I'm Mr. Wrong a lot of the time, and I don't think that can be. I don't think that can be, leveled at me that I don't know that. I know that I'm wrong a lot of the time, and maybe I need to make an effort to get like other viewpoints in and vary the vibe more. And I'm sorry about Neil Young, and I'm sorry about Joni Mitchell. And I don't necessarily. I can't really think about the Joe Rogan that you see in the apology video is not the Joe Rogan that you hear on the podcast. And I don't really listen to the I used to listen to it before I knew anything about Joe Rogan, but it's one of those podcasts that when you hear a comedian that you like is on it, you'll listen to that episode of the podcast because you want to hear the comedian talk. You don't want to hear Joe Rogan talk. And a lot of the time it felt like Joe Rogan knew that. But I don't think that is the case anymore. I think now Joe Rogan thinks, it is the Joe Rogan podcast, actually. So maybe you'd like to know what I think. I can't help but remember every single time I see his face, I just think about one thing I heard him say, which was, I just, after a show, I go home and I just pound a bag of pistachios. You pound a bag of pistachios. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that to these pistachios, Joe? What did these pistachios do to you? These are just pistachios, and I'm not sure if they deserved what you did. How long has this been a problem for? Why are you so incredibly keen to assert your like masculinity in every single corner of your language that you would not even pistachios are safe from your violence because I've pounded a bag of pistachios. Even as a child, he couldn't help himself. Sent home from school early. Joe, what have you been doing at school again today? Oh, nothing, Mama. Just pounding a bag of pistachios and they sent me home. I don't think he's not from there, but I was trying to do like an old Southern, like confessional. Things ain't right at the minute, but they be okay one day, you know. I know things are going to turn out all right. Joe, you got to stop pounding these pistachios. The townspeople won't stand for it, Joe. Okay, Mama. Now get back upstairs in your podcasting studio. Okay? You got a kettlebell enthusiast, and you need to talk to him for 3.5 hours about everything he's eaten and how often he goes to the gym. Because this is the human experience, and that's what counts. Okay, Joe? Okay, Mama. Don't you touch those pistachios while you're up there. I can hear you pounding them on that podcast of yours. I know, Mama. It won't happen again. He does need to, I mean, I haven't got the brain from a legal standpoint. I don't have the backlog of knowledge to be able to assess adequately whether or not misinformation can be like you can. Podcasting for me should exist like the internet, like this free commons where you can say essentially whatever you like. But if you can say essentially whatever you like, I mean, except for such and such a person is definitely, you can't defame anybody. That's like the limit of free speech, isn't it? Defamation. Or the incite of violence. Or, okay, but that's where it gets into it. So like medical disinformation. But if you can't medically, which would be a scientific form of disinformation, if you can't scientifically misinform people about what the truth is. Also, is there a difference between disinformation and misinformation? Is misinformation like, oh, I misinformed you, sorry, it was an accident. Disinformation has an intentional but it isn't intentionally disinforming because they believe that the wrong information is the right information. So to them, it's just information. And if scientific disinformation is illegal, then surely that would include climate disinformation, like climate change denial. And, you don't have to recycle, whatever it is. You don't have to tell newly industrialized nations full of billions of people that they have to stop, burning so much stuff. Stop dumping all your plastic in the sea, Asia. We've stopped a lot. You need to stop more than you've currently you've started, and we've stopped right as you've started, and there are fucking billions of you, and we need you to stop. Okay? We industrialized a long time ago. You should have done it then before it was bad for the planet to burn fossil fuels and all of that stuff. Okay? Should have industrialized when we industrialized, when actually it was all great. It was fine to do all that for the planet. Not like now when we know it's really bad for the planet. You couldn't also, like, if I'm not sure if, and somebody can tell me about this, scientifically, a plant-based diet that includes a lot of lentils, nuts, and vegetables would be the way to extend your life to as long as it could possibly be. Uh, that sounds pretty smart, pretty good science. Are you allowed to disinform people about that? Is it, but also I don't know how much of this you can prove, or is there extent to which you have to be able to prove it beyond, and then it becomes like legal? Or is it to do with the number of deaths incurred by the mis and disinformation? Because if so, then climate change denial also falls under that, and so probably so does the plant-based diet thing. Those examples of anyway, I'm using them as examples. I'm not sure the science I've given is correct, but examples. Whereas to say if the science is, I mean, I'm pretty sure about climate change. Just in the terms of, nobody has the actual knowledge to hand, but I'm aware that, I outsource my knowledge to people more, more qualified to hold it. And if I look at the scientific community are all pretty much in agreement about all of that, aren't they? In the same way that they are around COVID. I suppose less so about plant-based diets. But I'd be interested if anybody had any scientific information about plant-based diets. Hey, that's a good idea. Maybe my podcast can be learning on the job. Learning on the job, where I just, if you're an expert about something, you could send me a voice note on Instagram and I could play it and I'd say, thank you for the voice note. You've just informed me. And then I could have conflicting information, and then I start being I'll just fall for whoever the most charismatic leader is, and that information will be the correct information. And then, based on information that you've given me that is wrong, or information that I don't like, so I change it to be information that I'm more enthusiastic about. Or maybe I start off with good intentions, but then in my filtering of your knowledge to the masses, like here at the Alfie Brown Show, it's a huge network of lots of listeners, and I start telling my listeners not only what I'd like the information to be, but what I'd like the information to be directly corresponds to what I know that they want to hear. So then I become like the French general who says, there are my people. Where are they going? I must find out so I can lead them there. So I find out, I crowdsource the information that you'd like. What would you like me to be telling you about the way that you'd like your life to work? What information could I give you that would satisfy who you already are, or satisfy your inherited beliefs in a way that reaffirms that your place in your consciousness is real, your lived experience is valid? And I give you all of that information. You, so grateful to me are you, that you start almost deifying me. I become Christ-like to you. And you can't believe that finally somebody who's come along, who's just started telling the truth, and I'm going to use the word truth in quite a loaded and pointed way at other people who believe different things. Like, oh, I'm just telling the truth. I'm just looking for the truth. And the truth is going to become not a word that is kind of active in what I'm saying, but rather it's going to be a kind of reversal of a kind of an accusation that everybody else is lying. And I'm going to be able to say everybody else is lying whilst still maintaining in a kind of positive and affirming way that I am the one telling the truth. But the implication will be that everybody else is a liar and that I am the only one that you can trust. And over a course of different podcast episodes, we're only on 15 now, but perhaps by episode 30, who knows, you'd all be so sort of demented and attached to me, and also so loyal and dependent on me that you won't be able to listen to anything else. And I will embody such a huge part of your identity and your characteristics that you will find it very hard to grapple with the idea that I might not be right about everything that I'm saying. And to you, I most certainly will be. Whatever the facts are, I'm going to be totally and utterly within reach of some kind of power, some kind of greatness. And then I'm going to use this. Not only I'm going to be selling you so much shit, but it all to do with, it's going to be like I'm doing you a favor. So I'm going to be saying like, you need this of mine that I'm selling, and I'm going to make a huge amount of money. And it might be things like, like brain sweets or like to make you think better. And it could be like a t-shirt so that you can show your support for the truth. And I'll probably write a pamphlet, but I'll probably outsource the writing of the pamphlet, and it'll be like a hodgepodge of like ideas. Or do that Russell Brand thing where you read Noam Chomsky and you sort of move the words around a little bit and you think, I've had ideas, and you haven't really had any ideas. You've just read Noam Chomsky and you know a lot of words, and you think, well, I'll just say it again in slightly different words rather than thinking independently. But because I know so many words, people will confuse this regurgitation of ideas for original thought. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Have my own, YouTube channel in which I explain things. I'm possibly going to have a Union Jack behind me, which, to be fair, there isn't any black in. There is none. So when are we going to start saying fair enough? That's true. There isn't any. I've often like treating there's no black in the Union Jack like it makes any sense, or makes a difference to the way that anything in the world should be. Like somebody's going to go, there's no black in the Union Jack. And you go, oh my God, you're right. You're right. Fuck. Well, that's changed everything, hasn't it? Oh my God. Yeah, that's so true. So true. That's never dawned on me before, but thank you very much for mentioning it. I'm very pleased of the information. And after a little while, I will be your Lord, and I will have such a loyal throng of there'll be like, not fans, almost seems like the wrong word. Followers, I think, is the right one. And politicians and journalists will be very keen to come on this show, and I'll be out of this podcast space by then. Jesus, I'll be in a brand spanking new upmarket Soho townhouse podcast recording space. And my, oh my, people will watch. Hey, welcome to the Alfie Brown Show. This week we've got some fucking YouTuber that is that was once like a lifestyle YouTuber, but then became kind of madly obsessed with Sam Harris, and Sam Harris acted as a gateway drug for Ben Shapiro, and basically he likes all men with sort of that color hair and in that hair like that. He likes hair like that, and now he's his own podcast. So please welcome to this show, Kenneth Tiogo. And you'll all go, woo, and I'll start a whole kind of cultural movement, and I'll be able to influence policy, and I'll be a huge problem, I think is my point. I'll be a really massive problem for society. I think essentially what I'm saying is that's how these fucking stupid movements start, isn't it? With sort of good intentions and then a spiraling sense of ego and desperation to maintain this thing this addiction that you have to the validating masses adoring you. You just want to tell them more and more of what they want to hear so that they adore you more. And it's like, it's a drug, isn't it? It's a big old drug. It's transfer deadline day today in the football, which is a day that I always used to adore. I always used to absolutely love transfer deadline day. Hello, welcome to transfer deadline day. Some football players are going to move from some football clubs to other football clubs, and you will be very satisfied seeing this player who you previously associated with playing in a certain colour kit to now he plays in another sort of kit. And that is exciting. Also, the style of play will be slightly different, and will he fit in with his new team? There is a drama and soap opera narrative and element to what goes on here today. It also happens for a lot of money, which we're sort of excited by the movement of a lot of money because of like the psychological corrosive psychological effects of capitalism on our brains. We associate high amounts of money with like exciting events, even though, and if a player doesn't move for as much money, but it does perform better, then that is sort of still isn't as exciting, and we just won't care quite as much because it's not as good. But welcome to Transfer Deadline Day. We've now assigned a colour to it. So on Sky Sports News, we all wear yellow now. We all wear yellow to sort of identify in a like a Pavlovian sense. You see us wearing yellow, and then you start slobbering at the chops like mad bastard, don't you? You fucking weak dogs, baying for money to move and players to human men and women, but we don't cover that, to move as commodities for your entertainment. And you will ascribe like storylines, narratives to somebody moving from one club to another club, and you'll say, you're a traitor, you're an employee of one company who for a fee has moved from one company to another. But because we are emotionally involved in the like non-existent makeup of the whole kind of notional like cultural identity of what it is to exist within the framework of something that we've like called a football club, you now feel like a kind of familial belonging to a large supporter base, most of who you have no idea who they are or the content of their characters, and 11 people who a lot of averages will all be younger than you, but you will still think they're older in a sense because they are elevated kind of Christ-like above what it is you perceive to be like a kind of a human being who exists on your rational level. Welcome to Transfer Deadline Day. So that's the day today. This is the day today. And, you know, I also, that was a big piss take of the whole event, wasn't it? But I love it. I adore a transfer. I adore to observe a transfer. And maybe you do too. It feeds into the our most primal. Sorry to move my microphone while I'm on the air, but feeds into our most primal, you know, desires to see these storylines unfurl, isn't it? I suppose. I've also started getting into the NFL. When's it going to end? When will my brain finally go, no, that's enough sport? You follow you follow too many sports. So stop following so much sodding sport and get on with your fucking life, you mad bloke. But no, I now understand the NFL. And it's like a game of war. It's very good fun. And the thing is, it feels like a gateway into rugby as well, that which is, you know, ever so slightly more fluent in that you don't stop for an advert break every 2 minutes. But maybe it's the lack of fluency that builds it. You can sort of stage these things in attacks, like it's like watching like lemmings. Like you get to fire at them and then they get to fire at you, or Worms. Am I thinking of Worms? I think it's Worms where you have like command and conquer. You both get a go and you got to try and destroy the other. It's great. Slightly too many rules at the moment, but you know, I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan because that's who I got told that I liked, and that's how these things work. That's the person who I love, who got said to me to become an NFL fan, loves the San Francisco 49ers. So in order to share something with them, I now support the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, I watch. I'd be hard pressed to say that I support yet, but you can't rush these things. You can't hurry fandom. Oh, you've just got to wait. You've got to just watch some of the sport and assimilate it into your system. And then, oh, it becomes a lot easier to follow. And the Storylines in the sport will unfurl in your soul and create an emotional reaction. And you'll feel happy or sad, depending on whether the team that you like has won or lost. Oh no, my torch is on. Oh my God, a big transfer. Sorry, I had to turn my torch off. And I saw a big transfer. And I got genuinely excited. After all of that, after the evisceration of the whole concept of transfers as something to be excited about, and I see a transfer flash up on my phone, and I immediately become giddy with excitement. Not even anything to do with the team that I particularly like. Everton are signing Dele Alli from Tottenham Hotspur. And he's the one that's going to see us right. We've had so much trouble for years at Everton, but finally, Dele Alli is going to come fix all our problems. Dele Alli and Donny van de Beek, two players who play in very similar areas, who have both been signed on the same day, as if there wasn't too much forward planning that went into this transfer window. That, and we've just hired a man with no lips to become manager, which is going to be incredibly distracting for all the players who are sitting in the dressing room looking at Frank Lampard, and he's going to be going, okay, so we need you, mate. We need you to attack the half space. Half is a hard word to say in Scouse. Need you to attack the half space when the fullback goes up there, lad. Okay, so you get that fucking in your noggin, and that'll be sound for me, mate. Do you understand? And they're all going to be going, why don't you have any fucking lips, lad? You've got no fucking lips in your head. How'd you blow? You know what I'm saying, Frankie, lad? Where have your fucking lips gone? And he's going to say, they descended into me head as I got older, and it'll happen to you, lads. You smoke, well, not all of you, obviously, but some of you. Your lips will just start to recede as you get older because your skin loses collagen, doesn't it? Your skin loses collagen, starts to sag, and your lips just sort of recede into your face, don't they? And then the Everton players will go, why are you fucking speaking in the Scouse accent, lad? And Frank Lampard will say, I'm actually a method manager. Not to be confused with Method Man, who is not a method manager or a method man, really. It's just a stage name. But I am a method manager, which means when I inhabit a club, I actually like to live as that football club. So that's why I'm talking like this. And I live as, like Daniel Day-Lewis in my left foot. He actually chopped his fucking foot off, lad. Which would have been perfect. He makes him around the right level to play for Everton Football Club. Do you know what I mean? That. Now, I was only joking. Calm down, you, because no, fucking hell. No, it was a joke, man. It was a joke about his fucking left foot, wasn't it? He doesn't have a left foot in the film. And I thought, oh, that's funny, because, like, you lot are so shite that you've got me in, who's just been a shite manager for ages. And now you're thinking, fuck me. You just made a joke out of Spence here. Well, you need to get a bit fucking better at laughing at yourselves, you fucking blue-nose wankers, because you got fucking nothing else in your life. It was to laugh about the huge unfolding catastrophe that is this football club. And they'll go, fair point, boss. Yeah. Finally, a manager a gaffer who's starting to make sense to us all there, lad. And Frank Lampard will go, right, so I'm a method manager. So I am inhabiting the very essence of Everton Football Club. Okay, so I've already I've sold my mind. Okay, I'm done with that little improvisation. Thank you very much indeed. What else? What else has been happening? Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party. He's a bad dickhead. It won't be news to any of you, that. Any Johnson supporters listen to this podcast, I would be, and you can send me a voice note and it can be anonymous. I'm very into the idea of voice notes. Send me a voice note and I would just like to know if you do support Boris Johnson, if you did support Boris Johnson, if you'd vote for him in the next election, that sort of thing. If you did, what drew you to him, etc., etc., etc. If you voted Tory in the last election, I'd just be interested. And I hope that you understand that I would be without judgment for you there. I hope that you would understand that. But for me, he's a bad dickhead. He's a bad dickhead. And he's sort of like, what I don't know, in the Boris Johnson era, like, who is still watching things like EastEnders or Coronation Street or Emmerdale or anything like, who's still watching soap operas and thinking and getting anything from it? The whole idea was it sort of mirrored life quite closely, but it was a slightly too much going on and slightly too bizarre. But like now, if you were mirroring, like, if I was telling you two stories and you had to believe, like, guess which one was made up, and I went, oh, so a woman called Janine has just found out that her person who she believed she was her elder sister was actually her mum, and the person who she believed was her mum was actually her grandma, and there was a huge sort of a public unfolding of emotions in the town square, the kind of community where they both lived was built around, and there was kind of crying and shouting that ended with this kind of denouement of her saying, "But I am you're not my mum." The young one shouted, "Yes, but yes, I am actually," in tears. "But yes, I am. But I was too young, so I couldn't raise you. But I wanted to be around you, so I had my mum raise you as her child, and I just thought I'd carry on shagging, but this time use a lot more contraception, you know, or some I didn't use any. Jesus, of course." So that's the situation, and soon you'll leave and never come back, and it won't really be explained why, and I'll kill someone. So there you are. Is that true? So that's scenario A, or is scenario B true, which is the Prime Minister just saved a load of dogs at the expense of some humans who had not even like, not that it should matter, but not even the Prime Minister sent out a specific order to say, sorry, could you leave some of those people behind so we can get some dogs on the rescue plane, please? My wife likes them. Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't mind which breed. No, it really doesn't matter to me, no. No, thank you. Well, I don't know. I can't make whichever ones you leave behind, but I can't make that decision. You have to make that decision, okay? Because I don't care. I just want you to save the dogs, okay? Just please, will you save some more dogs instead of some humans? That would be perfect. Thank you very much indeed. Jesus. Thank you. Didn't think it would take that long, but yes, fuck. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Some people. Which one of those two scenarios is true? It's it's a cliche that life has jumped the shark, and that's the situation we're all in. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the podcast for this week. Thank you very much for watching, or thank you very much for listening. I will return to my life as a parent and a stand-up comedian. There you are. Thanks very much. That was the podcast.